We're here in the studios of St. Louis Public Radio with the Beyond November political reporting team. Jason Rosenbaum, Joe Mannies from the St. Louis Beacon, Chris McDaniels from St. Louis Public Radio. The governor is putting this money, Medicaid expansion money, in his budget. What happens to it now? What's the process?
Well, it goes to the House first, the House, State House. Basically, the legislature draws up its own budget. It will look to see what the governor has and may borrow and may not borrow. The assumption is that in the case of the Medicaid money that's going to be included in the budget, which is all federal, is that they'll ignore it. That as the legislature puts together their own budget, it won't be in there. So I think it will prompt more discussion than some of the Republican legislators had expected, because he put it in the budget. And I think that's why he did it, was to force people to talk about it, even if they don't want to do it.
And from a micro level, the challenge that the governor and his allies in the medical provider community have is just the composition of the legislature, not only because it's Republican, but because a lot of the Republicans in there kind of have these scars from this earlier Medicaid battle in 2005 when they cut the eligibility to Medicaid down to its lowest level.
Well, it's down to the federal minimum.
Which is 18%. So, like
for some.
Yes, for like a family of two, they would have to be making $2,700 a year in order to qualify.
I mean, they cut 300,000 people either lost some or all of their benefits back in 2005, and so there was a lot of fallout from that. So yeah, they felt a lot of scars from that, and they don't want to revisit it.
And whether you agree or disagree or not with that move, and that move was extremely controversial at the time, it still showcases the challenge. There might be some people who voted to make those cuts in 2005, especially in the Senate, who could possibly reverse course, especially if they're in a rural area.
And again, you guys don't see this as a one-session issue necessarily.
No, but often the year where there's no statewide elections are when legislatures, just in Congress, as in Congress, tackle some of these complicated issues, because the next year is an election year, and then they're more sensitive to what the public's saying. So any controversial actions, they'll try to get a lot of that done this year, or at least lay the groundwork for final action next year.
I would agree, but this Medicaid expansion would be a huge change for Missouri, because like we talked about earlier, we're currently at the federal minimum. We would have to go from 18% to 133%.
But I would agree, it would be a big change, it'd be a big policy change, but there's a lot of consequences to doing it. There's a lot of consequences to not doing it.
Because many Republicans philosophically oppose this. Aside from the money issue, they don't believe the federal government should be spending all this money on this. They don't think the federal government has the money to do it. And they don't buy the argument that it saves money in the long run. They don't necessarily agree with that. But aside from that,
no Republican wants to be primaried out by saying we implemented a form of Obamacare.
Right.
That's nobody in...
Part of it's because of the Obamacare thing, but it's also because philosophically, many Republicans believe that the government should not be that involved in health care, period.